The Panther M10 is a tank that has been around for a very long time in World of Tanks base, probably among the first medium from the German tech tree to be implemented. And the problem is, even if back in the days it was definitely a tank you wanted to play with because it was considered as a very good tank, if not broken, nowadays this tank lacks of many things that are not even its own fault. Let me explain briefly in this video what I mean. First of all, we gotta focus a little bit on the statistics of the Panther and realize what makes it popular, or what made it popular. Two things are noticeable about the tank. The first is the gun that could be considered as a pew-pew gun, which are guns that reload extremely fast, have a low alpha damage, but in the end a really good DPM because of their reload time. It's the case of the Panther, sitting at 3.8 seconds of reload for around 160, 170 alpha damage, or even 135. My apologies, but I do not remember exactly what kind of alpha damage you have. But it's not important for the subject of this video. The second thing is the armor profile of the Panther. I remember back in the good old days when you played with this tank, you had a lot of chances to make your enemies bounce when you either try to over-angle the tank or just going over a little slope. If people couldn't see the lower part of the hull, which is the weak spot, they would necessarily bounce. And this was for one simple reason: people could not switch from regular shell to gold shell without having an impact on the reload time. It would be the same principle as World of Tanks PC, Tank Company, or other tank games. Basically, if you switched to gold shell, you had to get another whole reload in order for this shell to be on, which meant that most of the time back in the days, people will not even bother playing with gold shell. Everyone was playing with regular shells only. And of course it was a huge advantage while playing the Panther, because when you play this tank, if you have armor, and if you played any tank with some armor, you definitely had a crazy advantage over the battlefield. Unfortunately, nowadays, with the new system allowing you to switch from regular to gold shell without any penalty, nobody's doing it anymore, and if you can't penetrate, you just switch to gold, right? And all of those little things, little improvements, because in the end those are improvements that Wargaming made to the game, made some tanks kinda unplayable. And in my opinion, the Panther is one of them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily telling you that the Panther is a bad tank right now. I'm just telling you that it's not as great as it used to be, and it was implemented for this reason. Historically talking, the Panther, same as Tiger 1, Tiger 2, those tanks are supposed to shine because they have a special place in the heart of people that love history like myself, and I suppose many of you watching my videos. And at the same time, those tanks were feared, and if those tanks were feared at the time, you need to give them this beauty back into the game. And effectively, Wargaming did it with the Tiger 1 and with the Tiger 2, because both of those tanks received multiple buffs that really makes them scary on the battlefield. Let's take the example of the Tiger 1, for example. Despite the beautiful camo Wargaming implemented on it, if you take a look at the statistics, you'll soon find out that this tank places itself among the top tanks of tier 7. And it's going to be the exact same for the Tiger 2 at tier 8, that is among the top. And I just find it sad that Wargaming is not doing the same with the Panther, because in my opinion, this tank is supposed to shine, and therefore it needs to get its stats reworked. I don't know really how, because I'm not a developer. I don't know what will truly impact the tank, but if they could just maybe increase a little bit the overall armor profile of the tank, making it impossible on the top part of the hull to get penetrated by regular shell, at least regular shell from medium, not necessarily from tank destroyer, it would help a little bit. On top of that, there is something we need to understand about the tank, which is its armor shape. Even if it's advertised as something armored, you see that there is a major problem on the turret. The turret is flat, which means that everyone shooting at the turret will be able to penetrate. Yes, of course, you have a huge gun mantlet that will possibly allow you to bounce a couple of shells, but still, if you are in close combat and you are not moving all the time, which is something I see a lot of players not do, and I don't do it myself, people will be able to aim around here. If you are at only 5 meters from the tank, like at this angle exactly, and you shoot in the turret cheeks because you're not moving and because you're not trying to wiggle in that turret, people will penetrate you. It's quite easy, right? And it's also part of the fault that is imputable to the players. Players are guilty of not playing the tank correctly, and at the same time Wargaming is guilty of not trying to really implement new stuff and different ways of playing the Panther, or at least giving us buffs that will allow us to get the tank we loved back in the days back today. That being said, I don't know how you are playing your Panther. If I could give you some advices, if you really want to bounce your enemies, the only way for you to do it is to play in side scrape, which is something we are about to show right now. And if you are playing in side scrape, still you need to be extremely careful, because people will have the possibility of penetrating your turret, which means that all the time you need to play extremely carefully. And we know the love of players for the careful playstyle. Nobody likes to play like that anymore, and Wargaming is not creating tanks that are allowing you to do that anymore either. The perfect example being the Pharaoh, the latest tank implemented by Wargaming, which is basically something extremely armored with an autoloader that is capable of bursting at 30 to 35 kilometers per hour, which is definitely a good tank, right? Well, you're not going to do that with the Panther, because if people decide to rush you, specifically tier 8, you are going to get destroyed, except if you're extremely lucky, like it's my case here, and see that the ML1 is running out of ammo. Once again, what you want to do all the time is being side scrape, and it's the only tactic that will work. But what's the problem, right? Because you're probably thinking, if you go side scrape, everything will go fine for you. No, no, no. The main problem you encounter with the Panther is the fact that it's extremely hard to side scrape nowadays on multiple maps because of one simple thing. Maps today are worked on to allow hull down playstyle and hull down only. When you see these kind of maps that are old maps, such as the one we're playing on right now, you see that we have a lot of flat ground, specifically on the middle of the map. But here we got quite lucky that the enemies decided to go on the flat part of the map. If they went on the other side, so the left side that I took at the beginning, we wouldn't have been able to do anything, which sucks for us, but that's how it is. Now, that being said, you don't have enough gun depression to work on hilly terrains, which means that you are not adapted to the new maps Wargaming is implementing. Because yes, you have 6 degrees of gun depression, you're going to tell me that many tanks, specifically from the Russian tech tree, already have this kind of gun depression. Yes, I agree with you, but the Panther is a high tank, which means that 6 degrees on the Panther will feel like 3 or 4 degrees on a Russian tank, and this truly does make a difference, which makes it unplayable in most maps. And if you combine the lack of gun depression with the fact that people can switch ammo to totally destroy you without even thinking with gold shell, plus the fact that most and the vast majority of maps are for all down, you get a tank that is no longer practical or usable in a good way. Of course, I feel like most of you know how to play the tank, and most of you will tell me in the comment that I'm wrong. And it's possible. It's just my opinion, and it's just the way I feel about the tank. And I just wanted to tell it to you through a video. I did, and hopefully you will either agree or disagree with me, but most importantly, tell me in the comments why. And personally, I'm gonna see you soon for a new video, hopefully for a tank that is still relevant nowadays. Bye.